Vinayak Chaturthi wishes to everyone. Today I will be giving a little bit more detail and with more examples on how the sound of an Anuswara changes when it's followed by a semi-vowel in both Rig Veda and Yajurveda, and a common mistake that many people do when they chant the Mahamrityunjaya mantra. And finally, does these Vedic chanting rules apply to the Bija mantras and classical Sanskritam stotrams like Lalita and Vishnu Sahasranamams? In Sanskritam, we have what you call as the Varga, where all this, what you're seeing on top, this is all Ka Varga, Cha Varga, and Ta Varga, and Ta Varga, and Pa Varga. So all of these have been categorized as so that's why they're called Varga, Vargiya Vyanjana. We have also discussed about how the sound of Anuswara changes when they are followed by the consonants. If you remember, the main goal is that our lips should not close, because when we have Anuswara, which is our lips, both of them close, so that cuts the flow abruptly. So the goal is always to continue the spirit of the which is a nasal sound, as you see here, but keep our lips open so that it will be a melodious flow. I have discussed this in quite detail last time. I won't go into that again. We'll continue further from this point onwards. The semi-vowels. The semi-vowels are called avargiya because they are not categorized. In the sense, the way we have the consonants kachatatapa vargas, these are a little bit kind of outliers. There are multiple reasons. One is that if you see the antastha, yara, laba, I have also discussed in one satsang before that all of these are formed when you combine two vowels. That itself keeps it different. And the next one is the ushman, which is sa, sha, sa, ha. Ushman means frictative. Like because when you say sha, sha, sa, ha, the air rushes through between the tongue and the hard palate. So that's why they call Ushman. They create a little bit warm, a little heat. Ushman is warm. So that's the reason they keep it in a different, away from the main consonants. And we'll go in more detail about this in a bit. Here the discussion is about how the sound changes when Anuswara is followed by a semi-vowel. These rules change between Rig Veda and Yajurveda, specifically to do with this. The Paniya Siksha only talks mostly about Rig Veda, but there are some exceptions which are not applicable for Yajurveda. They do deviate a bit. In fact, the swaras do change significantly between Rig Veda and Yajurveda. And there are also some new sounds in Yajurveda that you won't find in Rig Veda, and I'll come to that little bit. The point here is that I will be distinguishing the rules specifically on Rig Veda versus Yajurveda. Today's discussion is on the Paniya Siksha, the sloka number 23. Alabu Veena Nirghosho Danta Mulya Swaranugaha Anuswarastu kartavyo nitya hro sashaseshu cha. So what this means is that when we encounter an Anuswara followed by any of these ha, ra, sa, sha, sa, the sound should come with a resonating and muffled sound. Just like how a veena or a sitar gets it through the tumba, and that too, the one that resonating should be of the vowel of the Anuswara. If you see an Anuswara, it's not independent. Anuswara, Visarga, they're always attached to the other vowels, right? So here what they're saying is that the vowel that the Anuswara is attached to, that has to be resonating just like the veena or tumba sound. And how that is, we'll go into further. I want to take a minute here to explain why they have singled out ha, ra, sa, sha, sa. Let's go see what is so special about these 5 letters that the Rig Veda and Yajurveda, both of them handle them separately compared to the other semi-vowels. And then we get into the actual sound, how they should be. A short answer for this is that every consonant has a nasal equivalent which will be used in the place of Anuswara. And also the semi-vowels ya, la and va, they have Anunasika, which takes the place of Anuswara. While the letters sa, sha, sa, ha and ra, they don't have a pure Anunasika. Let's try to understand why that's the case. It all comes down to the way that the consonants or the sounds are emanating when we utter them. The main characteristic that I want to highlight here of consonants is that they are plosives or sparsha. Sparsha means they touch. So one specific part of your tongue, mostly the tip of the tongue, touches some part of the mouth that we have seen later, Dantyamulya and Talavya and all of those. Since the consonants are clear and hard stops, their sounds emanate clearly, including their nasal equivalents. And then we have the semi-vowels. They are actually kind of a half touching. Some of them are barely touching it, some of them do touch. All of these should have a corresponding nasalized sound. Semi-vowels, they are not so fortunate just because they don't have this kind of a hard stops. But what they do have is they have Anunasika, like ya and like ra, la, va. Basically, you get the sound from the nose. Normally, you say ya or la or va. But when you have Anunasika, you say nya or la, va. See, it's a little bit kind of resounding, as I was talking earlier about the Alabovina and so on and so forth. Only these letters, ha, sa, sha, sa and ra, these people are unfortunate because their sound is actually not a hard stop. The sound that you emanate when you try to nasalize them, they are not perfect. They lose the purity. Unlike if you say nya, you can hear clearly. La, ma, because there is I'm actually, when I say va, I'm touching my lip and the teeth. So sound is clear. The air retains, so the air comes to the nose. And ya, same thing. My back part that you can't see, but back part of tongue actually touches on the soft palate. That's why ya. So we have a proper hard stop there. And so is la, because we have it here. But ra, and if you see sha, sa, ha, Anunasika or nasalized sound is not perfect. When you're saying the nasal sound, half the air is coming out. If you say ra, ra is actually, it's basically going through. Sha, sha, sa, ha. That's the reason they get actually specially treated. You can see how much depth they really go into in the sound perfection. First of all, I'll discuss with these 5 how sound changes, both Rig Veda and Yajurveda, and then we'll proceed on to the remaining ya, la and va letters and how the sound comes out. And the rule as per the Paniya Siksha that I just explained earlier is that when you have any of this ra, sha, sha, sa, ha, instead of trying to nasalize these letters, what the rishis have did is actually they nasalized the vowel that is the basis of the Anuswara. For example, Samhita. Here Anuswara is sitting on sa. The vowel here is a. It's is plus a, and then you have Anuswara, right? So we had to Anunasika or nasalize that the vowel sound here. So that becomes, instead of a, because like Samhitaha. Samhitaha is wrong. Samhitaha. Second example is Vamsha. But you say vam, the lip is closing. Instead, nasalize the a that is part of the va here. Vangsha, vangsha. My lips are not touching. Vangsha. And same thing here. Next one, see the sanraksha. It's not samraksha, it's sanraksha. The common mistake a lot of people do is they say either sam or sun or sang. All of these are not correct. The right sound is sanhitaha. If you say ang, that becomes like the kaka gaga ang. That sound is incorrect. One of the example here from the Bhagavad Gita is Panchajanyang Hrishikesho. So here the sound of this will come as Panchajanya Hrishikesho. Simple. Next one is Yajurveda. They also handle these letters separately for the same reason what I mentioned earlier. Now here the Anuswara change the sound to Gum. It comes from the Ga sound. This sound emanates right above the guttural region coming through the nasal cavity, and it's formed when you combine the halanta of G and Ma, Gum. A popular example of this comes from the Ganapati Suktam from Shukla Yajurveda, Ganapati Gung Mahava Mahe. Let's now come back to the remaining three letters among the semi-vowels. For Rigveda are Ya, La and Va. Since these sounds have clear stops, we can use their Anunasika. When we talk about Anunasika, remember that we just have to nasalize that semi-vowel. So here for Ya, it would be Ya, La, La, Va, Va. So Samyukta, my lips is closing, so that's not right. So you say Sanyukta. The Anuswara takes on the sound of the alphabet after it with nasalization. So here, if you see, Anuswara is followed by Ya. The sound will be of the same letter which is Ya, but with nasalization, which is the Anunasika. So Sanyukta. Next one, same thing. Samlaya is Sanlaya. Here is the one, that's the popular one, Trayambakam Yajamahe. So that mantra is actually should be changed into Trayambakai Yajamahe. Trayambakai. Look at that. The dot has been replaced by the sound of the following letter with the nasal Anunasika. Yeah. So Trayambakai Yajamahe. The rules that we just discussed right now, they are all applicable only in the context of the Veda mantras where the letters are next to each other. But these rules are not applicable when you get a bija mantra from a guru or from tantra. First of all, qualification for bijakshara, 99% of the situations is that they have anuswara. But when it comes to the bija mantras that you get from the guru, those have to be considered alone. You don't apply any of these rules there. Well, let's say Om Hreem Shreem Dum Durgaye Namaha. That's it. You don't complicate it, say okay Om Ha and then after Sha, then I should not apply. No. You take it each and every letter individually. Om Hreem Shreem Dum Durgaye Namaha. It's very simple. The answer is both yes and a no. Those rules that are common across all the Vedas, like if you have seen what we have discussed in the first part of this series, Ayogavaha, those are common across all the Vedas. But the one that has been mentioned in this video, they are specific to each and every Veda, and among them again specific to some shakhas. So the consensus is that those rules that are common across all the Vedas have to be applied even when we chant the classical Sanskrit slokas or stotrams like Vishnu Sahasranamam or Lalita Sahasranamam.